Executive Director of MIT Enterprise Forum, which is being done in partnership and thanks to Hong Kong Science and Technology Parks. I'd like to call on Alan Yong to just say a few words of welcome, and we'll get started with this session.
Thank you, Sam. So, good afternoon. Hello? Hello? Sorry. Good afternoon. I would like to extend my very warm welcome for everyone to come to Charles K. Kao Auditorium. And today we are featuring Mr. Chen. He's the Executive Chairman and CEO of BlackBerry. I think both of them are not strange names. They are world famous, world class, and I hope today you will get to hear from the first hand about how John is turning around BlackBerry. And, there are a lot of series of changes, and the market is changing. The consumer's behavior is changing, and obviously the business landscape is changing. So how BlackBerry is now adopting itself and to take on another era, I think this will be very interesting topic for everyone who are coming today. But I would like to just ask how many of you are actually not based in Science Park? Okay, a very good percentage of you. Great. Prospects. And how many of you have come to Science Park for the first time? Okay, in fact, you are all very, most of you are actually very, at least frequent or at least come to here and know us. So I won't, in that case, won't spend too much time explaining who we are, what we do, given that situation. Just want to emphasize, we have been working with Sam for the MITEF for a series of talks, and today is another one of those talks, and we look forward to, again, many more distinguished guests that we can invite for sharing. And the idea is actually bring more entrepreneurship, share the best practices and market trend, and also how companies are facing tough times and how do they cope with. And I think these are very essential for every one of you to have a mind share. So I would like to pass it back to Sam without taking too much of the time. Great. Again, thanks for everything. Thank you, Alan. Take care.
Okay. And on that note, we have started this session. I've been all year starting on time because we have to end on time at 5:30. There's always at the very end lots of 20 more questions. So I'm going to say not another word except that John went to high school and elementary school and is from Hong Kong originally. And I have been talking to about 200 people this year, face-to-face, in their offices, about the MIT Enterprise Forum and Next Generation Leadership Council, and always saying, oh, John Chen's coming to town. John Chen is in town now. But everyone is, ooh, you're a hero, you're an icon here in Hong Kong. I don't need to read his bio, you've got all of that electronically. So save some time. I'm going to just throw it over to John.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you all. I don't know about my hero in Hong Kong. One thing I found out about Hong Kong is that the higher you are, the more people should. So I don't want to be any of the hero. So let's have a chat. I don't know what everybody want to talk about. I think Sam asked me to speak a little bit about BlackBerry turnaround. This is my third turnaround, and one company is called Pyramid Technology. Maybe not too many people know that. That we turned that around, and then spent a lot of time at Sybase, which is a database company, and we turned that around. And now we are encountering probably the toughest assignment of them all, which is BlackBerry. BlackBerry, I don't know how many people experienced the BlackBerry, but anybody who was in IT for long enough, you probably have crossed one of our products, anywhere from a rim pagers to literally 10s and 20s and 30s different models of handset, plus software technology behind it and BBM messaging that people may or may not have experience of that. I came into the company about 11 months ago. The company clearly kind of lost its way. It's in somewhat of both a financial trouble, but more importantly, the strategic troubles, which is where does the company go from there? When we used to be 50% plus of all the wireless communication markets and have a strong portfolio set of technology and patents, and we then became, a kind of small players compared to the Apple and the Samsung or the Android of the world, and the company was losing a lot of money, and we lost a lot of, we spent a lot of cash. The quarter that I took over, we spent over 1.1 billion in cash burn. So there's not too many companies in this world that handle that kind of load from a quarterly basis. And so we quickly went to work. 1 quarter later, we spent, or we cash burned about 775 million, and then the following quarter was 255. We just reported last quarter that we burned 36 million of cash, and we were able to turn the device business, the handset business, profitable, and was able to generate at least, have the cash balance at 3.1 billion. So now we're kind of set to we made a couple of investments, about 3 of them since I came, and then we're now at a point that we're hoping that the company financially stabilized. We're now starting to focus on growth and the market that we go into. Still have about 8,000 people around the world. We have some very strong market segment, like governments. There's a very strong market segment, and we have a very strong technology segment. We still are the #1 player in encryption, in security, in productivities, and in reliability. So in kind of the enterprise communications world. We are the backbone for a lot of the famous government armed forces, as well as the intelligence community, as well as the data work. For example, obviously, being a Canadian company, the Canadian government is all standardized on BlackBerry, with the exception of Parliament. The Parliament of Canada is just kind of like the people is now sitting in the middle of the road in Central. They just like to be different, and so they're looking at various different technology. We have today about 44,000 patents, which is one of the richest patents portfolio in the world. Plus, we have one of the youngest patents. The average expiration date for these patents is about 16 years. So this makes us extremely competitive in that world. Now, how we got into trouble has a lot to do. Company doesn't get in trouble, especially about the company that big, doesn't get in trouble because we've done one thing wrong. We have done a number of things that was not, probably not appropriate. And we were chasing a market that we don't really have a reason to chase, which was the consumer market. So one of the things that I've done, and I came in, was we kind of repivoting, maybe refocusing on the enterprise world. So the handset that you just saw us release called the Passport is a square one-to-one aspect ratio. People ask, why is it square? Well, first of all, it's different. And this is important to make a market statement, why that you don't just follow other people. By the way, the other people were following us in the beginning, so we wanted to make sure that we're at the part on that. But more importantly, we want to focus on a few things that enhance productivity. So I thought recapturing productivity and security was an important thing for BlackBerry to move forward. So the one thing about the square designs, you may not know this, books are designed on a page 66 characters across on a book, right? In the square design, with the aspect ratio, we're able to display the page with 60 characters across. And therefore, there's a lot of little wraparound and so forth. So you actually see the entire page. And it's meant to be productive because, when you're in healthcare applications or in financial application, trading application, when you have everything that is form-based, this is the best design to capture the entire screen. So that's one of the aspects of that. We turn the keyboard into a mouse pad under certain, it's called a capacitive keyboard technology. We turn that into a mouse pad under certain application, like you're reading a spreadsheet or you're on a website. Then you could actually move around the keyboard, that's just moving your finger around. That's turned out to be your mouse. Now, why is that important? Because without you touching the screen, you're able to move pages around and screens around. And so, therefore, you give you faster comprehension or better comprehension. And then we obviously return our keyboard back. The keyboard has proven to be the fastest and the most reliable entry format. So, and we added a lot of batteries. For example, the phone was 36 hours between charges. And you don't, you're not like if you're using iPhone, you need to recharge every half a day or something. And then on top of that, the RF antenna, we have some patterns on the RF frequency antenna. So the entire frame of this device is actually an antenna. So versus a lot of the antenna of phones that you can find today are a T-shaped antenna at the back. So the entire frame is an antenna. So therefore, it allows a better RF receptivity. So those are all things that we put in and thought through why it is in that format and all that shape. And at the end, it's going back and focus on not only the security of the software and the hardware, but also we focus on the productivity. So that's one aspect. What I've done when I came in 11 months ago was to break the company into 4 operating units. Because we are actually in 4 different types of businesses. And the reason of breaking it down is easier to manage, but has better objectivity, because every piece of business is slightly different. One piece of business is the device business. The most important thing about the device business, other than turning out state-of-the-art, very innovative, cool design that fit in the security and productivity space and the privacy space, is to make sure that we make money. So that goes for the people here who understand manufacturing. That means that you have to redo your supply chains completely, your relationship with your vendors and the cash usage and inventory buildup and all that needs to be logistic and warranty and distribution channels. All that we look at basically from A to Z. That's how you run a manufacturing company. At the same time, we have a software business which actually have 80,000 servers around the world, which a lot of them in governments and banks and hospitals. The 80,000 server was not the emphasis of the company, when the majority of the company was on hardware business. So this is a part that I wanted to really highlight in downstream, because we have some really strong technology in server. We made a server technology cross-platform. The product's called the Best 12, the BlackBerry Enterprise Server, is going to come out. We announced it's going to come out November 13th, which is a few weeks from now. It's been very well received. We already have competitors and our own base upgraded about 3.4 million licenses so far. We only allowed that for 6 months, and it's already at 3.4 million. So we expect this to be a very big numbers downstream. The next area is BBM. I don't know how many people heard of BBM. The BlackBerry messengers at one time was the most popular before you have the line or the WhatsApp in the world that comes up. It's enterprise grade. We'll be able to secure your transactions. It's pin to pin, so even I don't have your mapping of the pin. We only know the device numbers, so we don't know it's you. The pin to pin collaboration or communication provide you in terms of the privacy. And then of course we build in a lot of different features. For example, one feature is coming out is we're able to record a message I send you. Now, in the PC world, when I send you a recall, the last email, all it does is to make me more interested, or make you more interested in reading what's being recalled, right? So, because the message is still there. In our BBM world, when we record it, if you have not read, so the flag was not turned on, you have a D, which is the delivery flag, and then the R hasn't come on, which is you haven't read it, we could actually wipe out the message, you don't see what it is. You just know that I sent you a message that I have recorded. That's all we did. And then there are also features that we built in. Is once you read the message, you could set a parameter. If you read the message, it will disappear on its own, just like a spy movie. A little bit of a Snapchat approach. So there are a lot of items, things. So a year ago, we had 45 million active users, monthly active users, which is how you measure the messaging kind of popularity, so to speak. So we have 45 MAU. Since we opened up for iPhone and Androids and Windows, it costs us a lot of business, by the way. It costs us from not selling handset because it runs on iPhone and runs on Android, so people don't do that. Some countries, VPNs are very big. When that happened, it was a short-term hit about a year ago on handset, which is a big number. But today we have 91 million active users. Now it runs on iPhone, Android, and Windows as well as BlackBerry. So the idea is now, what is it going to do to monetize it? This is why we have a business unit put together. The business unit is focusing on how do we monetize for today, a 91 million MAU. So sometime down the road, I hope within the next 6 months, we'll cross 100 million mark, which will be about the same size of Line for those people who know, in this space. The question really is how do you monetize it going forward, and in a way that both the consumer and enterprise will both like it. BBM has some uniqueness to it. We have something called the channels. Today it's over 500,000 channels. These are, you and your friends could build a channel, like Pinterest, or a company could build a channel. Disney uses the BBM channel, Coca-Cola uses the BBM channel to get their message out to all the active users, or non-active users, registered users. So this actually, we don't charge any money for it right now, but over time, when there's enough value created, that's where we're going to have a business unit doing a transfer money in that. Finally, last but not least, I don't know how many people heard of a company called QNX. QNX is a microkernel technology company that actually derived out of Linux. So it's the same Android base, but it's a secure Linux. This is now it's a wholly owned company by us. This is now the blueprint for our IoT world, the Internet of Things. This is where we use the kernel to interact and connect with each other to make sure that the device is securely communicated. The number one application today is in connected cars. You're going to hear a lot about that. We are at 50% of market share, at least the market share of the connected car world in terms of the infotainment systems. And we're branching into connecting the maintenance and the well-being of the car. You're managing your brake pad and you're watching your driving conditions and interacting with the GPS and so forth, and alerting, early alert of engine troubles, failures, collisions, the whole 9 yards. So it's how a car manages itself through the cloud. So that, we have 50% market share, and that's based on this QNX. In the past, all we focus on is design and win. We haven't really focused on retail, license monetizations. By creating a business unit and put their own metrics on, they are now leading to focus on the fact that we're not going to give away our technology. We're going to start to make a business out of it. Now, obviously, you can't just say, well, I now want to charge you. So you have to add more value. Why people want to charge, or want to pay you for the money. So, underlying all that, not only the portfolios of the captains, are a couple of key principles. Across it, we want to make sure that everything we build, hardware, software, messaging, embedded, are all the most secure. We want to make very sure that secure communication and secure wireless are the number one, value add that we could take to the market. Privacy is the next one, which are the most, once you be able to secure it, you could we could protect the privacy. That one today is not a huge enough market because everybody's aware of wanting their own data to themselves. But people in this generation, so the younger generation, a little bit more open and loose to, how they let their data goes around, like Facebook and Twitter and all that. I think this is changing. Down the road, the world is going to change to more electronic and mobile phone. Payment is one, your healthcare records, how hospitals are run, how banking systems are run, how governments are run, are going to be wireless first, mobile first. It's not going to be, we're changing that point right now. It has always been server-based first, and then internet-based, and now it's going to change to mobile first. When it turns every application onto mobile first, your privacy and security is the most important thing. So this is where, and people always ask me, what is your blueprint of bringing BlackBerry back to relevancy? First thing is you got to make money. So we repair the balance sheets, we're starting on the income statements. The second thing is you have to have something you do better than everybody else, and that's needed. So we're going to focus on security, privacy, communications, those areas. And the world will come to the realizations that those are going to be the most important things, especially when you have a completely automated home, the connected homes. When you have health box in your house that monitor your family's health statistic. One project we're working on with TELUS, which is one of the three top Canadian telecom, is to upgrade their cable in your home into a health monitor box. And the number one principle or the motto that we have between the two groups of engineers, we're going to send you an ambulance before you know you need one. And that, by the way, if you're in the healthcare business, then you will know that is super important of saving life. If somebody has a stroke, the heart went irregulars, and all that. Dialysis machine broke down, a lot of things. The pacemakers is acting funny. All these things are a matter of seconds. And so we will try to put that into every box. Now this is currently a very Canadian-driven initiative because the Canadian government, obviously has strong interest in that. And just one thing about healthcare is everybody needs it around the world, or automated healthcare systems. But each country has their own regulation and policies, their own compliances on private information sharing, the protocol between doctor-patient interactions. All that's are very, very different. So we're building secure conferencing. We just bought a company that encrypt voice. This is a company that Chancellor Merkel of Germany went straight to a BlackBerry and uses technology. Once Snowden somehow reviewed that our friendly countries are listening in all the conversations, and so the entire parliament of Germany now is on our devices. So I actually have one that with that protocol built in. In order to crack that code, for those of mathematicians in this, we have a 256-bit combination. In order to crack that code, you have like 1.2 billion combinations that you could try. And so we figured out that no phone calls would be that long for you to crack it. So and so we're doing a lot of good things in that area. So we now have encrypted voice and encrypted data. We have encrypted messagings and encrypted texts. Our texts are encrypted. So when we're texting each other, first of all, if you text on my system, you're not reviewing, other than your PIN number, you're not reviewing your identity. And then in addition to that, the texts are encrypted, so even if people intercept it, we just be a bunch of garbage, unless you have the key, of course. Then we're now starting to let users to create their own key, so that I don't have any knowledge or ability to decrypt, the user's interactions. Of course, if you have a big enough supercomputers like a country has, they could probably get to the point that they decrypt it. But that's some serious stuff. That's not just a bunch of hackers sitting in a room that's some serious computing. So that's kind of the focus on the technology, the focus on the roadmap. Overall, over long term in the world, it's going to be all IoT based or Internet of Things. This is one term that you're going to hear until you get really sick about it. Sick of it. Everybody in data, in the data analytics world, in the cloud world, in the mobile world, they call everything IoT. Nobody's going to tell you they're not in the IoT space. So what is the BlackBerry participation in IoT? I'm only focusing on how to connect the 500 billion devices securely. That's all I want to do. Okay, and I figured if I could do that and protect their privacy, it could be a huge company. And so that's we're going to make money first, we're going to build our roadmap that way, we're going to move the operating company model into all focus on the same endpoints, but we 3 out of the 4 operating units are cross-platform. So we also crossed the threshold to understand that BlackBerry at one time was the only device out there for enterprise. Okay, we now realize it's not. And we assume, by the way, it might not only be Apple or Samsung. 10 years from today, it might be somebody else like, Xiaomi or Lenovo or names that you never heard of before. So we want to make very sure that we are ready to be compatible with any devices the customer would like to pick. And it could be cross. It could be some of these, and which a lot of companies now doing that, because companies, enterprises, interesting enough, are not all uniform. You have a group of people, like take a bank for example. The investment banking people and the legal people love to use BlackBerry because of security. But other people doesn't need BlackBerry security, and so they might be using an iPhone, or they might be using an Android or a Windows phone. So we gotta have to be able to treat everything as part of our ecosystems, not just BlackBerry. So by opening ourselves up across the cross-platform, we then created a market size much bigger than what BlackBerry was aiming at originally, which is the device. So that's why we're opening the 4 operating unit. So that's kind of the long-term plan, short-term, long-term, mid-term plan. And so far, the 11 months that we've been together working on it, we've been doing very well on the financial and the balance sheet side. We no longer have viability problems like we had first had 11 months ago. Now it's a matter of how you execute the channels and the distribution and how to push your product. It's come down to that, okay? It takes time, but it's one step at a time. So I'm going to stop here and then open up for any.
Okay, well, I'm going to come out here, and I have someone helping me pass the mic around. But like before, try and catch my eye or catch Jamie's eye and raise your hand and get our attention so we can get the mics to you very early. Let me start with one question. China. It's sideways, that was a big important market. You spent a lot of time in China. You developed a lot of strong relationships in China over the years. But it's not a big market for BlackBerry. Do you see that changing?
Well, I hope I can change it. I'm going to APAC next 2 weeks from now, early November in Beijing. By the way, I told somebody during lunchtime today, it's wonderful today being a Canadian technology company versus a US technology company. Especially when it relates to China and Russia. You can understand why. So I was very fortunate to be asked to moderate a panel of connectivity. That's going to be interesting as well. But I sense that China was one of my biggest markets when I was running Cypress. And we actually have 19% of the database market share in China. Nowhere around the world that we have that big a disproportionate percentage and when we're running it. BlackBerry, how many people understand the term 5-eye country? Do you know what 5 eyes are? You know, okay. Right, great. 5 eyes are 5 countries that have decided to pool their intelligence. Intelligence, I mean like CIA. The intelligence community together by sharing data. And of course, UK, Canada, Australia, United States, and France. These are the 5 I countries. We are dominant in the 5 I countries because of our security, both hardware and software. If I just crash into China market, first of all, I probably would need a lot of export licenses to be able to ship some of our product. That's number one. Number two, Chinese has now developed to the point that they actually don't trust the foreign technology either. So, as sensitive as the technology, the way that our technology are used, I have to be very cautious in how I approach the China market. But I could assure you, I will approach the China market because it's a market too big to ignore. But it's also one that we have to walk an extremely fine line and make sure that it's very transparent to my 5 I customers. Otherwise, I stand losing a big piece of my business before I get any new businesses, and then I found myself in the no man's land. So next 2 weeks from now is my first official visit running BlackBerry, the Canadian company, to China. And it'll be interesting to see what I find out and what opportunities there are.
Okay, sounds good. Question here.
I'm going to fire my first question. I share the same name. I'm John Chen, by the way.
Oh, hi. There's a lot of us.
You still remember me, right? Caltech.
Oh, about that.
Right.
Yep.
Right. We share the same name. But anyway, along the line with the question on security and government, I want to ask a question on, in the commercial world, we segment our market. We price it high to our highest value customer, and then you have other segments. But in your world of security, your biggest customer probably government, right? So in my view, if you have a 5 I, that's fine. They would share the same technology, which presumably the highest in the world, right? But then how do you handle the rest? Because it's really fighting against each other. That it's a cyber war game, I think, eventually. So it's really difficult to do that, at least not publicly. So, can you share your view on that? It's really hard to, let's say, the government wants you to sell lesser technology to the public so they can tap into it, right? I would assume that's what they wanted to do. They want to protect us, our own communication, but I want to listen to yours. How are you going to solve that problem as a market standpoint?
This is a big question. The kind of technology we deal with, we have to deal with a concept called the lawful access. And oftentimes the government, for security reasons, and in a lot of cases, anti-terrorism reasons, they would need to have a tap into my security systems. So I'll leave it at that. Now we don't do, we fought that a lot because we believe that consumer, whether you're individuals or you're running an enterprise, a big enterprise of any sorts, the government shouldn't have just free liberty to tap into what you're doing and who you're talking to and so forth. Unless you're taking nude picture of yourself, the nude selfie, because that we don't do any of those stuff. The one thing is that we require a court order to do that. Okay, now let's go to your question of, we have various levels of security technology. The 5 I countries and some of the very sensitive high-end, they not only take our highest level of technology, but they add on to it. And then we allow the ability to land it so that I couldn't go back in and tap it. Most enterprise does not need that level or would rather not spend that kind of money. Then the next level down is very adequate for enterprise and usually focus on malware and anti-hacking system or alerting hacking systems. So then it goes down in level, and the individual consumer, the encryption seat are smaller, and where we're generating some checksums, things that it takes time that you can break it. And the good thing is, ours is the hardest to break, but I will not challenge people to say that that it's not breakable. But as you go up in level and you go up in, and the security thing is not only about software encryptions or ECC or whatever. It's not only about that. It's about the whole systems, the business processes. Like if you have a open-ended internet, even at the most secure thing, but you have an open-ended internet interface, then you just render your whole system insecure, right? So you cannot leave doors. I mean, it's like you have a very secure house, but you left the front door open, and that's, unfortunately, that's where the intruder comes through. So it's really about architecture, it's about practices, the processes, as well as each of the component has to be extremely hard to crack through. There is no, other than a physical lockdown, there is no perfect security. There's no such thing. A physical lockdown plus a combination of others to make it harder and harder to get to is the answer. So what we sell to the highest level and the ability to derive even better code like this, the defense intelligence of the United States, are different from you and I everyday users.
Okay, thank you. Question over here. The other way.
Oh, right. Hi, John. As you know, I'm a big fan of yours. Through the years, I've seen you turn around sideways when you were just competing with Oracle sideways. I mean, Oracle, SAP, Microsoft, and IBM. I wonder, how do you see this challenge? How different? Is it more difficult? Less difficult? Are you employing similar strategies?
Well, the principle of business is the same. It's very, very different. It's in many ways it's much more difficult than Sybase, and it has to do with the following thing. Number one, Sybase is an enterprise software business, and it's been around for long enough time to build up a number of big companies using Sybase. Very sticky. For example, Sybase ran all the trading systems for Goldman Sachs. And so extremely, Goldman, as long as it worked, Goldman Sachs have written so many added code onto it that they will not just one day rip it all out and throw it away. So therefore they will keep maintaining those systems as long as you continue to upgrade your technology. That maintenance is very high dependency as well as high margin. BlackBerry doesn't enjoy that. Okay? In fact, BlackBerry traditional services business, so some of you may or may not have, which we call the 9900s or the BOS, the BlackBerry OS, those are depleting very fast. Not only because of depleted by competition, by ourselves too. When we release a new devices, they replace the old device, my old stack feed is gone. This is the number one issue of BlackBerry, the business issue that I have to deal with, is that I have to replenish the revenue faster than the old revenue coming down. Okay, and that's what I'm working on every day. So it's different, right? And the other thing is, BlackBerry is an extremely iconic company. Everything I say or not say publicly got reported and sometimes distorted. So I have to be very careful on what my message is. So far, it's okay. But I'm sure we're gonna hit some bumps in the road and people will amplify the negative. And in our business, my business is the turnaround business. We're never as bad as people think we are, and we're never as good as we think we are. People are like having a very bipolar view. You're either very good or you're very bad. I will bring you an example. In 1997, most of everyone who's around or know and thought Apple would go out of business within months. Remember? a year ago, so that was nothing Apple could do is right then. You know, they had the Corel software and all that. Everybody said it was a disaster. Nobody will buy that. Macintosh. Oh, less than 3% of the market share. Only in the education market. Nobody should buy that, right? Well, guess what happened? Last year, I think Apple achieved the highest market cap company in the world. Bigger than Excel, right? So if you think about that, it's always like this. You know, there is always this very bipolar view of companies. In fact, the reality is every company is somewhere in the middle of that bipolar shift. And you need to, and a good set of managers will learn how to deploy the assets correctly. Deploy the assets correctly, meaning you extract the proper value for the company and for the shareholders by not overspending and betting on the come. That's the deployment of the assets correctly. So those are the two main ones. The third one is the competition moves faster, the market moving even faster. So you probably remember the days when the first Motorola handset that looks like a brick, right? It's like you put it in a ear like this big. But people like to carry it because it's a status symbol. You know, they love to carry it. And the antenna was long and flexible, so it doesn't poke you, but it's flexible. And today, you could have the smallest phone that I ever seen was an embedded phone, it's almost like this big. Okay, more powerful than the whole, the old Motorola, whatever they call it, at the time. So the market changes a lot faster. The market is now getting ready for one thing. The device that you all think about, the phone, is going to be a very small number compared to what device really means. The sensor is going to be the biggest device business in the world. And the sensor will have intelligence, will have feedback, will have IP, it's all cloud connected. It's going to be part of your life, whether you like it or not. And that's what it's going to be in the future. A phone is going to be very flexible. I don't need a bendable iPhone 6. The bendable iPhone 6 has one problem. You could bend it, but it doesn't bend back. But the real phones that a lot of the communication I see now is that a lot of the advanced research are working on literally a piece of flexible plastic. And that piece of flexible plastic had a couple of soft keys on it that you could actually communicate very quickly. And you could actually see it through. It's transparent. When it needs to be displayed, some subject, it will have a screen on it. It's a very cool thing. It could be your ID card, it could be your credit card, it could be a lot of stuff. You could carry it anywhere, you could wear it as a badge. It's pretty cool. Now, those still takes time to come because the yield ratios are very low and the cost therefore is extremely high. It's not affordable commercial yet.
Okay, great. Another question here?
Hi, John. I got two questions. So the first question is about strategy. When you first take over the company, I guess there are many different routes you can move the company forward. So how do you pick the routes that you're picking right now? And is there like some alternative routes that you're considering? The second question is about Kilo app. So the phone is one thing, but what people are using are the apps. And I think the earlier BlackBerrys, they really crack the email applications. So is there other killer applications that you're considering?
I could answer both questions in one piece. And it doesn't have to be a troubled company. It could be just any company. When you take over a company or when you take over any business for that matter, the first thing you need to do is to figure out what are your strongest assets, things you know how to do, things that the market give you the credibility. In technology, you have to research the patent, the IP rights, and your engineering capability. And that will determine the path you take. And remember, I now go back to the whole idea of, I talk about security, encryption, productivities, and privacy. And safe to say, if I look through my 44,000 patents, some of those patents are very strong in protecting that rights for ours. I think what happened in the past few years, we went away from that. Those are the stuff that the enterprise relying on us to provide. Once we went away from that and tried to chase the people playing, I don't know, Angry Bird or whatever, and that's when we fell apart. Because then it becomes a eyeball volume game. And since we'll be selling to enterprise, like you see, bankers and lawyers and accountants uses BlackBerry all the time, you still see a lot of them. We have about 55 million active users around the world. So there's 55 million people who are still using them every day. But those people, you need to profile those people. Those people, I met a bunch of them for breakfast this morning. They are the ex-bankers, they're the venture capitalists and all that. They don't play Angry Bird or Candy Crusher. They need great email, reliable, highly compressed, be able to get the signal everywhere in the world, 3 level below basement when they can, the maximum signal, and they want their phone to be ready at all times. It's a matter of, this is a profile of people that wants to achieve something and using it as a tool. It's not people that want to spend time on a device to either entertain or occupy themselves. Those are very distinct classes. So if you look at all the spectrums of customers, markets out there, 30% is in the space that I'm staring at. So if there's 1 billion phones sold, there's at least 300 million is in that category. Those 300 million customers chose the phone for that purpose. There are at least another 30% on the other side that no matter what, they don't care. When they look at a keyboard, they don't look at it as a productivity. They look at it as very old style, out of style, non-sexy stuff. Okay? This is where their father and their grandparent uses. So I'm not going to win that because those people wants the most, the best game on it. And so those are the two categories. So when we talk about killer apps, you go back and tie to what security, for example, reason why we invested in all the turmoil that the company had gone through. If you focus the team on tasks that they could see, and they could see how it relates to not only the market but the customers, they usually rally around it. So they have less of a chance to spread these doomsday story around because they're working hard. And that's the art of managing the situation. And you celebrate a little success. And this is why sometimes I go public and say certain things. It's really not meant for the public. It's really meant for the employees. Because then the employees feel appreciated. And they see how what they work on related to what was being publicly digested. That's a very big motivator. It's beyond, pep talk and money and everything else. It's about how do I help us better. And so I hope I answered your question.
Okay, Jennifer.
Hi, I have a quick question. So I was a former BlackBerry fanatic. I love BlackBerry. I had the BlackBerry Pearl, I had a white BlackBerry, and what I loved about it is that when I was on my BlackBerry, people would say, "Okay, she's doing work." If I took out my iPhone or something else, they'd be like, "Oh, she's obviously playing a game," right? So I think it's wonderful that you've gone, back to the drawing board and resuscitating the patient. And getting BlackBerry back on its feet. But do you see in the future you broadening, rebranding and giving BlackBerry, this patient, a facelift so that it becomes sexy again to have BlackBerry, sleek and sexy, both from a design point of view and also from the fact that even now, like you're saying, Facebook and being all these places, Facebook's like a dinosaur. All my friends were using, Instagram, using WeChat. And then if BlackBerry can realize, even email and the people who use it, I'm trying to tell my team 80% of emails go unopened. Inter-office, we don't do email. External, we will. So how is BlackBerry going to evolve and to reclaim what I think you can do, cult status? Because obviously, if there are people still using you and believing in you, that means the comeback is yet to come.
Okay, but the similar answer is the same as the earlier questions. Whether I should teach consumer at large, you know, the power of, you know, whether it's productivity or security and so forth. The being sexy and being a workhorse are two different design points. When a company does well, you could probably do both. But today, it's a little too early. That doesn't mean that we won't transition to that. But today is really about, I'm providing the hardware and software to make you more productive so that you can achieve. This is not a toy. This is not a time passer. This is actually, it's not an entertainment system. This is actually your trusted work tool. Now, I agree that it might not be as sexy, but I wanted you to sit back and think about one thing. You probably all know that Samsung, who have one of the biggest installation and ship more phones than Apple, is having trouble in making money. They are making themselves, quote unquote, trying to be sexy, but they are now clipped on both ends. On the lower ends, you got Xiaomi and Lenovo and even local producer that you have never heard of, that I have seen a 5-inch touchscreen phone from China that actually sells for $79, that runs Android, okay? Samsung try to be sexy in that. If they sell at $199, they probably loses money because of the marketing budget they have put together. So therefore, will a consumer pay that delta differences? The answer is probably not. Even if they do, the margins are very slim, if not negative. So, and that is not a space that I believe today BlackBerry could afford to play in. Let alone the fact that I probably have to put a lot of energy, time, and resource and money to get Instagram over. What we do have the older technology like the Facebook and the Twitter and the world. I signed an agreement with Amazon. Amazon is going to go get these consumer apps. Then any Amazon apps will run on the BlackBerry account. So today, Amazon App Stores is about 250,000 apps. Nothing compared to iPhone or Google Play. Google Play is probably a couple of millions, and so is iPhone. But on the other hand, it's much better than I spend the money on. So I'm using, leveraging that. But it's really not our design point at this time. Maybe over time it could be. But I got to be very careful. I don't overextend ourselves.
Another question here. Okay. Thanks, Sean. Thanks for coming. I have two questions. The first one is that can you comment more on the inventory management policy of BlackBerry when a company is shifting from the turnaround phase to the growth phase? Because as you mentioned, Passport is so popular right now. Many people think it's a cool phone. But what I observed is that the BlackBerry fans probably on BlackBerry forums say that, the delivery time is so disappointing, and some sales analysts are concerned about the actual sales figure of Passport and think that BlackBerry may have raised a very good product because the supply cannot come up. Yes, and another question is that about cybersecurity. We all saw from newspaper that every day there are security breaches like JP Morgan, Home Depot, and UPS. They all suffer from different levels of security breaches. Can BlackBerry using this technology to play a role in this scenario? Yeah, these are my questions. Thanks.
Right. Okay. The second question is easy to answer. We have studied the so-called cyber attack or the hacking of it. We could probably do something and help out on each and every one of those cases. JP Morgan, of course, is a big customer of ours. What we have seen most of the time is people hacking through the application vulnerability. It's not the operating system or it's not the process, it's the application vulnerability. So what we have done was we worked a deal with Chen that we're not scanning any applications that put on our devices, even including Androids. And that the only, it's called a BlackBerry Guardian, is to protect the devices. But again, in the world of cyber attack and malware, it's a kind of a cat and mouse game. Once we cross a certain point, people would then break that, and then we should keep going. But it is just, facts of life. So that's the second question. On the inventory control, inventory management. Most company that loses money on inventory comes with two possibilities. One, they overestimated the receptivity of the product. And you will hear management talk about lead time management or just in time. It's actually another code word of ordering ahead of time. So you got to be very careful on that. So there's overestimation of that. Secondly, business tend to underestimate what inventory really costs. I know probably a lot of you are in the business or been through the business. Inventory costs are not just the parts you buy or the labor you contracted. There are the costs of warranty, there are the costs of royalties, there are costs of repair, and the cost of logistics. The latter four could go up to 15-20% of your parts cost. Most people talk about inventory, they think about bill of materials, because in the good old days, components are very expensive. But that has changed. Okay? Inventory now is really a end-to-end cost structure. What I have found at most companies, my first company I turned around was a hardware company, same problems. They only counted the raw material cost. And then was very surprised when things are not moving off the shelf, they end up with these big costs. When we look at inventory, we look at it in a more holistic way. I took a very conservative approach when we released our passports. We didn't order or pre-build as many. But I figured that if I was wrong, it's a better problem to be wrong. If I order too many, and if I was wrong, I have a big issue. Because the auditor will force me to write it off. Then we back to 2 years ago problem that BlackBerry faces, which is we overestimated the demand and we start writing it off because handset and electronics, obviously, are kind of like white wine. You can't really keep it on the shelf for too long. It depleted in values. So that's why we did what we did. But I'm glad that we're having, supply issues because, at least people wanted the phone.
Sorry, is the demand better than you expect right now?
I'm sorry?
Is the demand of passport better than you expect?
Yes.
Another question right here. All right, thanks. Hi, John. Thank you. That was a very good talk. There's a lot of insight there. I wanted to sort of get your insight or views into the sort of enterprise collaboration market. I understand that you have 80,000 BlackBerry enterprise server.
80,000.
Yeah, 80,000, yes. Which does essentially the interconnectivity between the email system, the contacts, and doing the logic on November 13th. What I wanted to get from you was, in terms of the direction the market is going, there's been a lot of noise about the usage of emails as a collaboration platform, or as the misuse of emails as a collaboration platform. And therefore there's been, whether players like Box.com, Dropbox, or even other players like Yammer comes in that tries to sort of fulfill the market in for enterprises. And I have a personal interest because I run a listed company that has a platform that is being used by senior management and directors of boards in over 10 countries. So we do sort of collaboration layer in documents, which is non-email based. So one of the key strategy questions I have, obviously, in doing this, how much should we push our collaboration platform from the directors and senior management down to the next level of knowledge makers, and where is that market? Is it really yet? Is it something that is about to go on, or is still people are not ready for it? Because given that you have multi, as you mentioned earlier, everybody's going mobile, and you have also clearly said that this has to be multi-platform. So now we have mobile, multi-platform knowledge workers who use email for communication, but there is a space there in terms of collaboration space, which Box.com trying to fulfill. So this really, I want to get your insight into that and see how one.
Well, this is a personal view. First of all, email can never be a collaborative platform. Email is an information exchange platform. Dropbox, Box, and Watchdogs, which is the secure version of Dropbox, they've done a very good job in being able to make file transfer, electronic file transfer, much easier and make it boundaryless. So it has a need. It has a need in the market, but it's not going to be the collaborative platform. The real collaboration platform, in my opinion, are in the data analytics. Because if you find my premise of every intelligence device is going to connect to each other, the only way for these intelligent devices to talk, not only on the standard protocol, and there's a lot of standard protocol there, is how did they exchange information that became enforceable or actable, the things you can act on. That's where the data analytics comes in. Data analytics has always been the most underexplored market potentials, in my opinion. So if I have collaboration, if I'm going to do collaboration, whether it's for the knowledge where people and so forth, or the knowledge-based workers, is really about how I exchange the intelligence. How do I recognize, how does machine recognize the same problem that has been tackled before? So that, I think, is the ultimate collaboration. Today, you can share files, like a box and a Dropbox, and I think it's going to have good business. They're very successful, right? But they're going to run into a limit of the intelligence sharing. There is no intelligence sharing on Box.
So there's not enough value add on what they're doing.
Not after Box and Dropbox. I think they have taken. I'll give you one example. Watchdogs is a secure Dropbox. They have trouble raising the last round.
Okay, question here.
Hi, my name is Clement. I'm a reporter with Bloomberg News. Just a couple of questions. I want to follow up on your comments on China and Russia, that you guys have to be very careful in approaching those markets. If you could just talk maybe more in China, what are the issues that you are facing, and what is your expansion plans in the market? Also,
I actually didn't hear that, sorry.
Your plans in China and Russia. So you said.
Do I have a plan in China and Russia?
Yeah, like in terms of, you said you need to be very careful, right? So can you talk more, maybe give us an idea what are the issues that you're thinking about and what you might do immediately. Also, a second question on BBM money. We know it's very popular in Indonesia. Maybe an idea of the number of active users of BBM money, and what are the any plans to expand the footprint, basically, to
Okay. So the first one is very short. I don't have any plans in China or Russia. And I'm exploring plans in China and Russia. As I pointed out earlier, in 2 weeks will be my first official visit as BlackBerry going to China. And I would like to understand what the ecosystem looks like. I know that what I cannot do is to go the traditional way and go to China and Russia and open up stores or hiring people one at a time, and then somehow figure out, maybe China Mobile would distribute the product or Unicom and so forth. I don't think that works. That's my opinion. I mean, I think that's kind of a day late and a dollar short. And it might not worth my risk of having to address the concern that I have in some of my current customer base. But there might be a much more broader approach to both of the markets, especially in the China market, that could work. I have some ideas, but since the ideas is only restricted to myself only, so I would call it the wishful thinking at this point. In a couple of weeks' time, I will probably know a little bit more. After I have lined up to speak to a few people that could give me some advice and shed some lights on how to do that. It's clear that, in my mind, that BlackBerry needs to and should be in one or both of those markets sometime in the future. But it's not an easy thing to just get into it. Regarding BBM money, we launched on September 17th in Indonesia. So it's still early to tell what the MAU is going to look like. It was a collaboration with Indosat and Telkomsel, as well as with Permata Bank. And so the uniqueness of BlackBerry is we're able, because the BlackBerry claim to fame of this reliability, and that's why you can get email anywhere and so forth, is we have a direct connect. We have a network that can directly connect to 635 operators around the world. There's only 1,000, but we have the bigger 635. And this is why the email roaming is so strong at BlackBerry, and the security of it. The advantage of that is we're the only company today that are able to put a purchase on either your phone bill or debit against your bank account. We're the only one that can do it today because of our connections that we exist in the past. And we're taking advantage of that in Indonesia and see whether that works. The reason why Indonesia is important is that first we have a big market share there. But secondly, is that Indonesia is a debit-based economy. People use top-up, airtime and debit cards. They don't use credit cards. Right? It's hard to convince people to use credit card and that uses credit-based society, to have some kind of a virtual money transfer scheme. And so we decided to try it in a debit-based society first. They could debit on their Permata bank account, or they could put it on their phone bill. And a lot of the phone bill, they topped up phone bill. So there's virtually no risk from a transaction point of view. So we settle all that transaction.
Okay. Question back
John.
No.
Sorry.
Sorry about that. You're good. Thanks for me. Okay. Thanks, John. I've been a BlackBerry fan for quite a long time. I think starting from OS 4 with especially the hardware keyboard was the best thing, I think. But I think it actually comes to a point that the screen size and the resolution can be a little compromised if we choose the hardware keyboard. So I would like to see what do you think about the phablet market? Would you consider like the 5 to 6.5 inch devices to be manufactured by BlackBerry? Or for productivity, would you also reconsider, say, launching the tablet side for the BlackBerry? Because I think that would be very useful for us. So that's my first question. Yeah. And the second question is, I used to live quite close to the UK office for BlackBerry. And now back in Hong Kong, it seems that the maintenance side is not as comprehensive as there because it is outsourced here. So I would like to see if you would like to, I think most of us are now living in Hong Kong and working in Hong Kong, so would you consider having a retail outlet or a customer contact point, you will one in Hong Kong so that we feel closer to the company? Thanks,
Okay. And since you're asked 2 questions, no more time for any other questions.
Sorry about that.
The only retail, I'll answer the second question first. The only retail store we have is in Dubai. We are redoing our customer interactions. We are redoing our customer interactions. in terms of support. And we realized that the carriers are not the best first-line support. Or they might be the first-line support, certainly not the good second-line support. Because technology moves so fast. So we are working on that. I cannot tell you in Hong Kong how we're going to come out. But on a worldwide basis, we are reworking all our customer touchpoints. So that you know, so it will take a little bit of time. I would love to have tablets, but I would not. I don't want to build just another tablets. There are enough tablets out there. You know, Android has tablets. You know, obviously iPad and all that. Right? So. If we're going to build a tablet, we're going to build something, I hope, reasonably attractive. Okay? We no doubt we're working on it. You know, the tablet with physical keyboard is a huge challenge. Right. So that's one thing that we want to think about how we're going to do that. Right. So that's that one. That backs to your first question, which is we do have a 5-inch phone, and a Z3. We do have a big, large enough screen phone like Z30, but they don't have the physical keyboards. When you put the physical keyboards on it and to make it physically manageable, it's actually the largest size actually going to be the passport. That needs to physically to manage it. But we are working on a concept that may solve both of your questions. I can't tell you. But my only point is, I do realize and agree with you in some of the, you know, wouldn't it be nice, you have a large enough screen, and also be able to be touch screens, and also have the physical keyboards, but not make it so awkward that you can't keep it anywhere. So we agree that that is a challenge that we're going to address.
Okay. On that note, I'm going to ask everyone to take 30 seconds to 1 minute to fill in the evaluation survey. We have one more of these sessions November 21st, so be on the lookout for the information in the coming week. And I've known John for a long time. I've seen him dance up on stage many, many times. But this is definitely fitting a standing ovation. So thank you.